Hello, folks. This is Todd at Formula1blog.com. Joining me for this live commentary is my dear friend and professional driver, Paul Charsley. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing great. Yep, I made my cappuccinos. I am all set.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. I have a Red Bull open here. I'm ready for free practice one in Canada at the Canadian Grand Prix. And, if you are listening to this and you're in the States, the NBC Sports Network offers a live world feed that they stream at their website. It's NBC Sports Network's Live Extra. So if you type in to Google NBCSN Live Extra, you'll see that link and you can watch the world feed. They don't have any commentary. There's no expert commentary from Diffie and Matchett and Hobbs and Will Buxton and the gang. So that prompted Paul and us to think, gosh, we could stream and watch this with you folks. And eventually we could just...
We'll do it live.
We'll just do it live. Paul,
we'll do it live. We will.
Yeah.
Well, it's better than just talking to myself during the whole practice, I figure.
I know. It's very rare that Paul and I get to watch a Formula One session together. So we thought this would be great fun. So we're just going to cover the entirety that is free practice one. We'll go through. We'll take a peek with you folks that are watching at home streaming, and we'll share some of the intricacies of the track. If you didn't catch Paul's track lap, his Track Talk podcast this week, you should listen to that. He really goes into depth about each corner. But we'll talk about some of the teams, and we'll just watch the practice unfold along with you. So for all of you listening along, we appreciate it very much. All right. It looks like the session is underway. We got an hour and 29 minutes to be occasionally insightful, Paul. We've got Haas F1 out. Looks like Renault's practicing a start-stop. Romain Grosjean or Hassan, I couldn't see if that was Jolyon Palmer in the Renault or
I think it was. I think I saw the MSV on his helmet when they were cluing in on him. Obviously, that's his dad's company in England where he owns like 5 racetracks and runs all kinds of racing schools and things like that.
So that's where the money comes from.
That is where the initial money comes from. And his dad runs racing series, obviously, through that outlet. And Jolyon won in the feeder series that his dad ran. And his brother has followed suit. So cool foul, if you like.
Funny how that works out.
Funny how it works out. But obviously, Jolyon's GP2 champion, too. So,
Yeah, right.
Exactly. You always hope those guys get out there. So this track's been the Canadian Grand Prix home since '78.
Yeah, long time. There's only 5 other circuits that have hosted more Grand Prix on the calendar than Canada. So it's really been here a long time, Paul. And as a part of the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, if you will, it's this is a favorite of a lot of people. I've not been here. You have. And I wanted to ask you, though, Paul, it does seem like to me that over the past few years, I mean, this truly, with the evolution of technology, this is kind of becoming a real point and squirt track.
Yeah. As you said, I've been here many times. I can't even count how many times I've been here. Many. I came here to watch. I watched Jean Alesi win his one and only race, and I've been here just helping a friend of mine who was racing in the support series for a couple of years, and kind of helping coach and everything like that. Yeah, but this is it's a unique track. All the teams kind of know what they get into because they've been coming for so long.
Yeah.
Right? So it's obviously heavy on the brakes. So you've got to have a car that brakes well and the brakes can last the race. And also you've got to have a car that can put the power down out of those chicanes. Not many long sustained corners that you really use the aerodynamics. You brake, you slow down, you get through the chicane, you get out. So that's why they're able to use a softer tire here, because there's not a lot of load on the tires in a long sweeping turn like something like Spa or something like that. So It's interesting because you couldn't see a track that's nearly more different than Monaco, yet the tire setup is exactly the same.
Same, yeah. It is interesting how that works. I recall, and I won't get the year right, but how punishing this track is on brakes, and it always takes me back. I remember in a Jordan, I believe it was, Heinz-Harald Frentzen was doing incredibly well, and the brakes were such on the limit, and I remember it coming down to the last few laps, and his brake disc exploded in Canada. It's just really brutal, and really in that final turn braking right here, that braking point that we're seeing on screen right now is such a tough one as they head into Champions Wall.
It is, yeah. It's crucial too. I mean, they're at 340 kilometers an hour right there. They got to slow right down. But they got to keep the momentum up on the exit. So, I mean, with the braking distances there are in Formula One, they're so short, and to get everything in sync and right is tough.
Right.
So,
Red Bull.
You also want to make sure you use a lot of curb here, so at least on all these chicanes. As I said in that track talk, the first. We got a little wave coming from Jensen, I think. So you really want to take a big chunk of the first curb so you can lighten the amount of the second curb you get, because that's ultimately where you want to be on the power coming out. So you'll see them kind of overextend themselves on that first curb, and you'll see them a minimal amount of second curb. So you can see the cars going through here.
Yeah,
you really want from the midpoint between all these chicanes, these right and lefts, is right about that midpoint. You want to start feeding in the throttle, and to feed in the throttle, you got to get the car straightening. So that's why you kind of over exaggerate the first turn to make the second half of the chicane straighter.
Yeah. And there's Mercedes. This Nico Rosberg, it looks like.
So he's going to come into the last chicane here, the Wall of Champions, as we said.
Brakes hard. Yeah, that's a tough turn down the front straight. And this is kind of the area we had that horrible crash between was it Perez and Massa?
Yeah. And as I said, a bit after being here many times, my premium spot was right there in that first section of turns. And you were able to see a lot of differences between driving technique right there. It's a little hard looking on TV, but as we know, when you see it live, you see and feel and hear different things that you don't watch while you're on TV. And you could really see how many people could take more speed, brake later into that first section. And there's a lot of time there. And the best I ever saw through there was actually Schumacher in that first entry point. Another very good guy I saw there was Pierluigi Martini, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, that guy was very good. He never got I don't know why he never got any further than driving for Minardi, but that guy was an incredible driver, really. I'd say he's one of the most underrated Formula One drivers I've ever seen.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't. He's not on my radar, Paul.
Yeah. He was honestly, he was the guy that could take that much entry speed into there, like Schumacher. He was the only guy. So, and I think he's the only guy that ever put Minardi on the front row of a Grand Prix too. So. Yeah.
Nico into the pits. Nico says that look, his Monaco performance was not great. He understands that, but he said, look, I headed into this season, knew there were going to be some difficult races for sure. Monaco is one of them, but he said, at the end of the day, my experience, being in Formula One as long as I have, this is where it all comes into play, and I'll bounce back in Canada, and I plan on doing well in Canada. I'm not panicking. I knew there'd be some off races in the season, and Monaco was one of them. So,
yeah, which is weird though, still, because I mean he'd won the last three.
Yeah,
so
right.
Why he would think he was going to struggle there, I don't know, unless there's something different on the car that he kind of is cued into. They shouldn't have a lot of issues getting temperature in the cars, in the front tires here, because of those heavy braking zones.
Right.
The best way to get temperature in the tire is not by weaving left to right. It's by accelerating and braking hard and using all that downforce to put the energy into the tires. So it's fairly easy to get the tires up to a temperature maybe harder to keep managing those temperatures.
Yeah, right.
And not actually going over at this point in Canada.
Right. And for Renault, now keep in mind, folks, you'll recall last 2 weeks, I guess, ago in Monaco, Renault brought one new upgraded engine to Monaco, and that went to Kevin Magnussen. And they also gave the other upgraded Renault engine to Daniel Ricciardo at Red Bull. Now, this weekend, both Renault cars will be featuring that upgraded engine. And so Palmer and Magnussen will both have that new engine.
Yeah. Well, let's hope it works for him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Interestingly, I thought it was interesting with Palmer ahead of this Grand Prix weekend. Palmer had said, look, I'm hoping that now that I got a new engine, it's going to turn the season around. And then what I found interesting, though, Paul, is he made the comment that, he feels like hopefully they'll start making some progress. He likes the fact that Renault bought Lotus, even though their performance has really gone backwards ever since they took over Lotus.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to go backwards a little bit before it goes forwards, I suppose. Yep. You bring in a whole new organization into a team. They have a different mindset. Obviously, we know Lotus was gradually decreasing in size, personnel-wise and quality-wise. And so they're trying to right that ship first. And sometimes you have to kind of stabilize, get everything sorted before you can start pushing forward. And we know Formula One always keeps moving forward. So, if you're stationary, you're behind, right? So
yeah, exactly.
I think they're taking their punches right now this season, but I think it's the most logical step to take to be more successful in the future.
Yeah, there was a shot of Daniel Kvyat there. There's Will Buxton on the right-hand side walking down the pit lane.
Yeah, I wonder where the NBC guys are right now. You think they're out there looking at the corners? I
don't know where they're at this time. Well, it's the time I've been at circuit with them. They're getting their notes ready and up and down the pit lane talking to people. I walked in Austin, and Steve and David and Lee were working on notes and in the broadcast booth.
Oh yeah, during a practice session that they weren't commentating on.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to be flooding across the bridge here. There's a little metro system that takes you right to the island, and then you just have a little short walk, and it lets you out right by where the hairpin is, and then you kind of disperse from there. But
see, that's what Grace is always talking about. She loved going to this race. Said that getting to the circuit from downtown, they had a easy metro that just kind of went right to the island, and it was easy to get back and forth.
Yeah, no, it's mega easy. Probably the easiest. Yeah, the opposite of Silverstone, right? So right. You can stay north or south of the river there, and as I said, take the metro system in. It's so easy, and then everyone's right there too in the city, right? I mean, it's a couple of stops away, and you're right in the middle of Montreal. So the city stays vibrant the whole weekend, and the Canadian fans are amazing. They're very knowledgeable, and they're very passionate about everything. Whatever they're supporting, they're very passionate about it. It's great to hang out, at an event like that, where everyone's talking about the right things. It's in the bars, walking through the parks, it's good stuff.
But the city really embraces it. I mean, it's all part, interwoven into the culture of the city. They really embrace that. I haven't been there, but that's, in talking to you, talking to Grace and even Mark at some level, that seems to be apparent. Where I do get the feeling when we've been in Austin, Paul, it's like Austin knows there's an event going on out there, and they have a few marketing events and things like that. But I don't know that the city truly just loves, what they have in Formula One and really embrace it like other cities do.
Yeah, I think they just have a lot more other stuff going on.
They do. They got UT football and
I mean, if that's going on, that's bigger than the Formula One race. Not to the rest of the world, but certainly for the Austin area. So
yeah, absolutely,
draws as many people, I think. So
right.
But yeah, Montreal is all about Formula One all weekend long. Was it St. Catherine Street? I think is
right.
Where big stuff goes on. And Jacques Villeneuve used to have a bar there.
Yeah, and New City or whatever it was. Right?
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't know if he still does, but yeah, it was interesting when I was going there in the 90s. Right before Jacques Villeneuve, it was pretty easy to get around, to get a spot. I mean, it was a full, attended event. But then the year Jacques Villeneuve came, it like doubled. It was
right.
It was crazy how everything. It was like very apparent that there was a Canadian driver in the Grand Prix, and his name was Villeneuve. That's for sure.
Right. Well, here's Rio Haryanto. Speaking of, things going outrageous. Over the top. Yeah. Rio, there's certainly been some talk about Rio not completing the season, that he may not make it through the summer break as the driver here. One presumes what that means is that he certainly had enough, sponsor money, backing money to buy the ride for at least half a season, which I think is kind of intriguing that the team would just do a half season kind of deal. But then again, we saw last year with the same team where they had different drivers come in for different legs of the calendar. So who knows? There could be a chance for their reserve driver, a Indy 500 winner, Alexander Rossi, to take that seat. If I'm the team, Paul, and that opportunity was there, I'd take it. But on the flip side of it, Alexander Rossi's got an IndyCar season to run. Yeah,
and he's like 6th in the standings right now, and obviously, it's. This team is driven by the drivers bringing in an amount of the budget, and Haryanto is, I guess they have scheduled payments or something like that, and they don't have anything left in the kitty, and evidently his parents are out there running around trying to round up some money somehow. I don't know how that works, but the thing with Rossi is, is his sponsorship partner allocation wrapped up in the IndyCars now?
Right.
Does he have anything apparent? Does he have anything left if he needs to go? Otherwise, maybe it could be somebody, not Rossi, not Haryanto coming in.
Yeah, very well. It very well could be, because I think if you're Alexander, you've won the Indy 500, you've got sponsoring, and maybe that, as you mentioned, maybe a lot of that sponsoring is earmarked for IndyCar and his run in that series, not F1. So
yeah,
there's that potential.
Yeah, I mean, where is his future lie? He knows how difficult it is just to get your butt as a reserve driver, let alone as a full-time rider. And I think, the IndyCar world is a lot easier place where if people, respect your driving, if you're making a good impression, you could very easily turn that around into just a paid drive. Whereas in Formula One, it's nearly an impossibility unless you're in the Red Bull system, really.
Right. Well, if you wanted to, really put your foot down on it, I think, interesting enough, we got Rio Haryanto kicking the crap out of Nico Rosberg by 5 seconds.
Done.
Manor looks dynamite this weekend.
Toto was running down the pit lane to sign him up.
Right. So Haryanto on top.
Yeah.
And Rosberg clearly not on it.
Yeah, I mean, they're all doing installation laps. As I said, they know the track pretty well, so I think their setup isn't. They're not searching for a setup. They'll do a little fine adjustments, but they're not really guessing at this point on that. So they're making sure all their systems are in place, everything's working correctly.
There was a shot of Christian Horner there, Paul. Don't ever tell him happy birthday. Don't do that.
No, he doesn't like it.
He doesn't like that at all.
Especially for someone he doesn't know.
Right. I made that mistake.
Yeah. So he probably doesn't like you singing. If he goes to TGI Fridays, he probably doesn't like the happy birthday song.
Yeah. He doesn't mind the free cupcake with a candle in it. So that's nice. Dan Ricciardo out on track. So you've had a few races to look at this new livery. I'll be honest with you. I still, for whatever reason, love this whole matte finish Red Bull. I just love it. I don't know why. It just it pops. It doesn't have the glare. I don't know. I'm digging it this season.
Yeah, and it's a aerodynamic advantage. So there you go.
There you go. It's
It's as weird as that seems. The matte finish is cleans up the air over the rear wing, as everything is wont to do here in Formula One.
This long and drawing out left-hander here.
But obviously, this is one of the races he's won.
Yeah,
one of the three. So which
he's had 4 fourth place finishes this season.
Yeah,
he had an 11th place and then a 2nd place. And some folks can look at that and say, I don't know, they should be there or thereabouts, and they are, Paul. And it's a little surprising. The team Red Bull said, "Look, we're a little surprised, to be honest with you, on how competitive we've been this season. We thought that after the second part of the season, with that engine upgrade, that we'd come on sung, that we'd be a little stronger. So quite honestly, it's a little surprising that we've been as competitive as we have been for the first part of the season. They don't feel they can take the fight to Mercedes necessarily. It's not what they're implying, but they do feel like they can close that gap in performance, which ultimately leads to this moment in time right now. How will this new engine upgrade from Renault, the development upgrades they've had, how will they do at a high-speed, medium-speed circuit? And that's really the telltale sign.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great circuit to test your power, that's for sure. I mean, they're going to get some great data from this. All the teams will on where their engine unit is, where their aero is, etc. That's why you may see a little bit of a gap there between some of the teams, because it really shows off that a lot of the teams, obviously you got the Massa team that have a Mercedes engine in it,
right?
But the aero is what's going to let them down. So you really see that'll become apparent in the lap times when they're. Even though Harriento is, of course, on the front row right now. So
yeah, he is. He's right up top there, and then quickly Daniel Ricciardo lays down a 1:17.687, followed by one Felipe Massa, who just jumps to the top, the 1:17.065.
There you go. So now they're getting down to it.
Yeah.
I think a 1:14 was a qualifying pole from last year, so we're still a ways off of that. But as you'd expect, green track, not a track that's used very often for.
Well, it's been cold and rainy.
Yeah.
For the last several days here, Paul. So that's got to be, it's overcast sky as we speak. So it's been relatively chilly and rainy. So this track's got to be very green.
Yeah, it is, but it was going to be green anyway, right? Because as it says, even the used track. The one thing about this track in the rain is that because it's not a used track, there isn't a really polished line, so it gives you more options going through the turns if it does rain. Supposedly it was going to rain on race day, but now it is not. So it's going to be supposedly 65 Fahrenheit, something like that. So still kind of chilly.
Yeah.
So that is cold enough to find some chinks in the armors of some team that struggle with the cold weather and their balance of their car, etc. So, well,
certainly this will add a little bit to that, heat and tire heat issue, and certainly those tire air pressure issues that Pirelli has set those limits now, and they monitor those strictly. And it's been kind of the bugbear for a few teams in trying to get the right pressures, trying to get the right grip levels and heat in that tire, Ferrari amongst them.
Yeah. Yep. So we will see, right? We saw some of that at Monaco.
Right.
As we saw it with Nico, right? That was his issue. But
yes, yeah.
I said, I don't think it's a problem getting the heat in the tires as much as sustaining the temperature at what you want, because there is obviously those high braking zones, but there's a lot of time spent on the straightaways to cool those tires down as well.
Yeah, right. K-Mags having a moment.
Yep, just exploring the boundaries.
That's right, pushing the limits. That was pretty close. Was that Kimi or Seb? Let's see. It was Kimi, I guess.
So, yeah, once a tire locks up, it loses all its ability to steer.
Yeah. It's not helping you. It's not doing anything.
It's just a hockey puck at that point, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Pumping the brakes. Yeah.
A little bit of a flat spot there.
Yeah.
right
Yep.
over the top.
But you got to. This is the time to kind of test that stuff. Even though the track will grip up, it's you got to start sometime.
Right, Alan Permain there, a good friend of our friend Steve Matchett.
Yeah. They used to do a lot of stuff behind the scenes with those guys. I guess that went away. I think everything got even more secretive at this point.
Yeah, it's the nature of the series for sure. Sebastian Vettel out on track. So far, we get Kimi Räikkönen on top with a 1:16.138. Räikkönen just set that. Now Sebastian's out and looks to be starting his lap.
Yep.
Followed by, is that Kevin still out or Palmer? One of the two.
And imagine if it was Mags, he'd be in to change that tire. Although it was a lockup, I'm not sure how bad it was. And obviously, you got to manage your tires. You get 13 sets, so
yeah, right.
If you can deal with it, maybe you deal with it at this point, because this is where really lap time, etc., is not.
This is it's that whole section of track where we're just watching this onboard of Sebastian Vettel, Paul. It's a tough part of that track, where it kind of winds through there and then comes out to this long stretching right-hander into hard braking zone. That's a neat part of that track.
Oh man.
Oh,
Massa just had a big one. And that's not at the Wall of Champions. So that might be at that little piece of track you were talking about, Sector 1. So I'd imagine this is in the turn 3-4 area.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's right at the first sector. Wow. Okay.
Oh, it is. That's where he and Perez ended up on the walls a couple of years ago.
Well, let's see if Perez was involved in this one. Massa. I don't think so. Some issue with DRS. It didn't close.
Yeah, he says that he thinks he had a problem with the DRS, is what he was implying there on the team radio.
Like it's stuck open or something, huh?
Maybe it'll show us a replay. Yeah, that'll do it. If look at the replay here, there's Rob Smedley.
Felipe, baby, not happy.
No, he's not a happy camper at all. I think he's probably seen enough of that wall in his career.
It looked like he had wheels on the grass there, quite honestly.
Oh, yes, it did. Yeah, it sure did.
So I don't know if that was because of the DRS. I can't see on.
Yeah, I can't see. I'm watching the replay here. Let's see if we can see.
Looks to me the wing is closed.
Yeah, I don't see the DRS open. I think you're right. I think he got on the grass on that. On that white paint, that grass.
And that's, as you said, there's been rain, so it's going to be slick. Yeah.
Not the first time he's got a wheel off the circuit there. Yeah, I don't know. Here's an onboard.
Okay. It looked like it lost the rear end, and that pitched him onto the.
That's yeah. Now watching that under braking, it looked like he got some snap. The back of the car snapped out.
Yeah.
So it looked like. I wonder, Paul, if it locked up, if it was a harvesting issue, or if those back wheels locked up more than he thought they were.
Yeah, and they said, even with the DRS, if I've been doing it for many years, there really hasn't been too many issues where it hasn't worked where it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
We've obviously seen it stuck open a few times or open where it shouldn't, but for the most part, I'm quite surprised at how little issues they have with that mechanism.
Yeah, I have been too. For Williams, it's I don't know. I just looking at it, I think you're right. I don't know if it's a harvesting issue, if the rear's locked up, but it definitely pitched the back end around.
Yeah. And
then got him on the grass, and it was over from there. Tough way to start the weekend for Felipe. Certainly some discussions in the press with Felipe about his contract. It ends at the end of the season. And he says, look, I'm not that worried about it. The press had asked him, have you you having conversations? And he said, no, not at this point, but I'm not really that worried about it. I gotta be honest though, he was dog whistling a little bit about racing another series like WC and DTM. But he says, certainly that's only when I'm done with F1, but certainly speaking as if he still wants to be in Formula One, suggesting that, it'd be good to have a veteran like him at any team. Paul, when you look at it, here's another shot of this.
Well, at least he saved the front wing. It's, because he said he canceled the DRS. So obviously at that point in the corner, you're coming through and maybe you're not on the brakes, but you want to cancel the DRS in that little kink.
Yeah.
And maybe actually release DRS before you actually get on the brakes. And maybe there's something to do with that it's obviously DRS automatically comes off when you hit the brakes, but you can manually switch it off too. And so at that point, it's a very slight right-hander, but obviously you're going quite a speed as well.
And now he's back in the garage. He said he locked the rear when he tried to brake. Yeah, I'm just eavesdropping here, folks, on the world feed. Yeah, he said that there wasn't anything he could do when under braking. He braked and it just locked the rear, and he lost grip on the rear. He just couldn't do anything.
So I said, they got to get that balance with harvesting, from the rear of the car and getting all that sorted out. And if he's manually switching off DRS, maybe he left it too late. Who knows?
Yeah.
They'll figure it out, I'm sure. The beauty
I
of
don't
data.
know. When Paul, you look at the contract negotiation coming up for Felipe and Massa, it's hard to say, oh no, they should, because they got Valtteri Bottas. Well, Massa's leading the championship as far as Bottas is concerned. And, we've talked about it before on our podcast, certainly that the move to Williams has been sort of a rejuvenating moment for Felipe Massa. He's had a terrific sort of second career, if you will, outside of Ferrari and done a fabulous job. And most people felt that Bottas would be blowing him into the weeds, and that simply just hasn't happened. Now, I don't know what that says about either one. You draw your own conclusions, but the fact of the matter is he's been doing a pretty good job. He's the only guy to finish in the points every race this season. I don't know. I don't know if the team would be quick to replace him. Yeah,
I don't know. Sometimes it's easy to change just for the sake of change because things have been the same for so long. But there's not a real great reason why you wouldn't keep Massa in unless there's someone significant coming in behind him, really. I mean, but the devil, he's really, as I said, can match Bottas on most weekends. And if Bottas is so highly rated, there was talking about him going to Mercedes or to Ferrari, then why indeed would you? Now, one thought would be that if Rosberg re-signs with Mercedes, that perhaps the Williams team would be the next step for Pascal Wehrlein. Certainly be a step up from Manor and something, if Mercedes aren't quite comfortable with Wehrlein jumping into a championship contender, but he needs a little bit more experience in a very high-end team like Williams. It would be a great stepping stone to go to, really, for him. I mean, it'd be ideal for Mercedes to do that if they could keep Rosberg for another season. If not, then maybe they just roll the dice and hope Wehrlein can step up to the plate, really. Right. You look at McLaren, they're obviously leaning towards letting Stoffel Van Horn make that move, and he's only done one Grand Prix. So he had a good result, obviously, but it's a little different putting through a whole championship campaign. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced that Felipe should be ushered out the door. And like you said, unless you've got somebody behind, there's our friend Daniel Kvyat. Gosh, Paul, where do you think this kid's head is at? This has got to be tough. It's got to be tough. I don't see a lot of hope for him staying at that team. Yeah. For next year, I really don't. And I think half of it, just the whole process that they'd use at the Red Bull driver development program, is pretty cutthroat. And I don't think Daniel's been doing himself any favors by putting down that whole program as well. I mean, they may be suffering him for the rest of the year because they don't have a good replacement right now, but I can't see them re-upping on Daniel for next year unless there's some big commercial reason why,
right.
Red Bull and Russia and everything. But hey, maybe they put Sergei Sorokin in there instead. I don't know.
And
so
then,
who's your pick for this weekend then?
For the win?
Yeah.
I went with Nico Rosberg.
Okay.
Yeah. I went with Nico. I kind of felt like, Monaco is a bad race for him, but I think he's going to bounce back. I think he knows, how many opportunities he's going to have for the championship. And I think it's now or never, he's got to do it. He's leading the championship pretty convincingly. He's got 106 points. Lewis Hamilton's the closest rival at 82 points. So I think all in all, this is his year to do it. And he's only got himself to blame if he doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's got a head start, but already Lewis is within one race win of getting through. He has another bad weekend and Lewis wins. It's crazy how quickly it can come back, right?
Yeah, it sure is. And I mean, the team says, look, they go, we know we've got a lot of work to do in order to keep Ferrari and Red Bull behind us. And one of those key areas really at this point is the reliability, Paul. That's what the team is still facing. And even Lewis enters this weekend. He says there's still mistakes that are being made at the team. And he said that Merck's starting to buckle a little under the pressure from the other teams, and they need to focus on a few of those reliability areas. He says he's going into Canada with some concern that they'll still have reliability issues that he's faced a couple times this season. So, I mean, that's not a whole bunch of confidence heading into this weekend from Mercedes from Lewis's standpoint. And as I mentioned earlier, Nico says, look, Monaco was a bad race. You're going to have those, and we move forward. But I don't know, as far as the contract negotiation side of Mercedes, when you really look at this all mapped out, the fact of the matter is that Lewis makes $46 million. And you compare that with Nico, he makes $21 million.
Right.
So I think there is a disparity. It's not that Lewis isn't worth it. The guy's a 3-time champion. But I wonder if that isn't part of these contract negotiations that's making it difficult.
Mm-hmm.
There's a replay of Massa's incident.
Right. See, it wasn't initially on the initial braking, unless he was not braking then, he was just lifting coasting already.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the initial bite of the brake pedal or the deceleration, but a couple of meters into that. So that's kind of interesting.
Here's Nico getting ready to go back out.
So nice. Alonso's car's been sitting on the jacks for a while. So
it has. Banco do Brazil. This must be the Swede. And Paul, I don't need to remind you. Going F with a Swede, man.
Yeah, there's not too happy, those guys, from each other.
No,
I don't think there's any love lost before Monaco. Certainly not after it. So.
Yeah, right. Well, Sauber says it was Monaco is behind them. It's both drivers' fault, and there's nothing wrong with Nasser's chassis for this weekend. So that's what they're heading to.
Good.
So that's good.
We don't have one left anyway.
Right.
Struggling for money, obviously, which is a shame. And we haven't seen a solution yet. My insider information said there should have been something happening already, and we haven't heard anything still. So that's probably not a good sign.
No, that isn't a good sign. Where your hunch was that they were perhaps being bought by somebody?
Being bought or a major investment coming in, Gotcha. I think at this point, they're not gonna grab a sponsor just in purely someone's going to give them money to put their name on the side of the car. It's got to be something a little more internal than that.
Yeah.
So you got the hairpin here. So we talked about that on the track talk. You got to coming around that left-hander, obviously trying to get the car straight, brake as hard as you can. You've got to get that rolling speed on the middle part of that corner. It's crucial, and you don't want to you don't want to get greedy with the power on the exit of that turn. You can either pick up the understeer or oversteer, whichever that car is likely to do at that point. You don't really want to run it all the way out to the barriers either, because then it just takes you longer to get the car straight again and to really utilize all the power that the cars have. So you don't run it all the way out. You try and get it straight, so when you come through that little left kink, you're straight already. So you're not going to have if you let it go all the way out to the left and then you come back, that little kink can actually be quite a corner, and you have to be careful with the rear end through there as well.
Yeah, it looks like a tough corner to manage. It really does.
Yeah. I mean, you just got the high speeds coming down to very, very low speeds. It's timing's crucial, and it's so easy to get to overdrive the entry in there into any hairpin. And luckily, there's a lot of runoff there that if you do, you lose the car, but you certainly lose the time.
Yeah. Got Valtteri Bottas there, or Bottas, however you prefer. I guess it wasn't lost on you, Paul, that Felipe Massa did crash into a Heineken sign.
It wasn't lost on me. Heineken are already getting paid back in their exposure.
That's right. Welcome to Formula One, Heineken. They just inked a brand new deal with Formula One, and it's interesting. They reckon that their investment in Formula One at what is rumored to be $70 million. This is big news for Formula One. They reckon they're going to be a sponsor in 2017, that they're expecting from their deal to reach another 200 million people through their investment in Formula One. Interesting comments. There was a Q&A on the Formula One website with Sir Martin Sorrell of that's a stakeholder in Formula One, and he was talking about team investment, sponsor investment, and how you could spend 50 million, but you've got to spend to get your name and brand on the product, but you've got to spend another 50 to 100 million just to activate that brand and just to really reap rewards from having that association. And so it does look like Heineken is certainly prepared to do that and trying to reach an additional 200 million. That's the scope of their investment in Formula One, and that's what they see from their investment in Formula One. That's huge, Paul.
Yeah, no, it really is. It really is. You got to back everything up. That's the way the money rolls. I don't know if just going back to where that we're seeing those slow-mo shots of the Mercedes there with Nico.
Yeah.
So you kind of saw, kind of what I was talking about, where you just take a big piece of that first curb and minimize the second curb. You really saw it there in the slow motion where he was really attacking that first right-hand curb and then lightening up on the second one, because that's really where you got to be squared away with being on the power. But yeah, Heineken, all the Pirelli signs are down and Heineken's up, right? So I don't know if they were just putting Pirelli up there just because, or Pirelli reduced their investment in that side of things. Obviously, Formula One doesn't like to have anything unbranded.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but where I live in California, there's a beer company called Lagunitas, very big in the West Coast and getting bigger all the way around the world. But they are now partnered with Heineken to expand into Europe. So everyone was up in arms because obviously the Heineken brand, big corporate. This beer company Lagunitas started off as a microbrewery, etc., but kept expanding through notoriety on the quality of the beer, etc. It got bigger and bigger and bigger. So
they sold out, man. They're like,
and everyone was afraid, right? Everyone was like, "Oh my god, beer's going to suck now." So we'll see how that is. But it was really about distribution in Europe. So.
Well, it's working already, because look at that guy right there in the gray shirt. He's got a Heineken in his hand. Right there.
It was a Foster's, right?
Yeah. See, there you go. The sponsorship is working.
Yeah.
Look at that front wing, Paul. That is a...
Now, has that got an issue? It looks like that's been broken or something.
Yeah. Well, they're feverishly working away at this Force India wing. Now, Force India does come to Canada with their upgrades that they brought out in Spain. I think they've made some changes, certainly in the rear wing, because nobody's going to run Canada with a Monaco rear wing. But That's what they've got.
Although I think one time Manor had to, or Marussia had to.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, if memory serves, I think that's right. Yeah.
We got one rear, one front wing. It's going to work for everything, or it has to.
All right. Says Esteban?
Yeah, it doesn't look like Rogro's helmet, does it? Yeah, they've shut the door on Felipe Massa's garage. Yeah.
They've got the black, was that cardboard with Visqueen all around it, covering off the Massa. You can't see the magic that's happening behind that.
Yeah, it was interesting. So the Williams team. So obviously, lots of people are big fans of the Williams team, including you and I. But I'm reading the Webber autobiography right now, and he couldn't be more more negative about being his time at Williams. He did not enjoy that at all.
He didn't like Williams at all.
No, he said they were heading downhill, and he didn't get along with those guys at all. He wanted out the first year, but there was nowhere to go, and so he stayed second season before he moved to Red Bull. But it was interesting to see that side of thing from Webber, because he seems a pretty low-key, easy to get along with.
Yeah.
I mean, intense, obviously, in his way, but
sure.
And you would have thought he would have been, he's a racer, right? And you think that that of Williams, but boy, it couldn't be more wrong in that partnership.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good book too.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Let's see.
He doesn't like what's the name from Red Bull much, that's for sure. The Red Bull driver development, Helmut Marko.
Oh, Helmut Marko, yeah.
He's not a big fan of his.
Not a big fan of Helmut Marko helmet, yeah. So we've got K-Mags out on track. Paul, I think this is a tough call for Renault. You buy the Lotus chassis. The chassis is built for a Merc engine. You put your Renault back in it. The challenges this team's face, we've talked about it on Race Review podcast already, but all things given, I think K-Mags has done a pretty good job. Say what you will, but he's done, I think, about as good as you could ask of him, given, the kit that he's got. He's his best place finishes in Russia. He scored 7th place in Russia. He retired in Monaco. Wasn't a good race for him, but you can't pull a rabbit out of the hat here. No, he has done a good job. I mean, the chassis engine combination is pretty weak at this point. So if he gets anything out of it, which he has, is a double bonus for that team. He's certainly doing enough to warrant sticking around for another year. We're just not sure what's going to happen with Palmer. Right. We have Gutierrez out on a fresh set of Ultra Soft.
Ooh, he's going to lay it down now. Watch out.
Going pole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grosjean just slotted into 7th. And Raikkonen still at the top of the heap. Yeah, Ferrari, I don't know. I think this relationship certainly has been very good for Haas. They feel like they are back to sort of their early season performance. They feel positive about this weekend, at least heading into it, more so than they did in Monaco. And they're hoping that they can jump back up to that kind of where Grosjean's running, that 7th through 10th, try to get some decent pace out of this car. That high-speed circuit, there was a few races there. They seemed kind of befuddled about why their car's pace was so off. Working with that chassis quite a bit, trying to figure out what those issues were. But they feel like that they've kind of got back to that early season.
Yeah, well, let's hope so for them, right? I mean,
yeah.
Tough to think they could ever match that, really, even through the whole season. So they got it done early. Right. So, now expectations are higher, obviously.
Right. And here is Carlos? No, Kvyat.
Yeah.
So
the key for this track, as I said, with these chicanes, lots of lefts and rights and lefts.
Yeah.
Key is to have a very, very positive front end on that turn in and a very grippy rear end on the exit tough to do. Obviously, you want it really, to be able to turn in very sharply, but you definitely want it stable on the exit so you can get that power down and keep it down, as Jackie Stewart used to say, right?
Yes.
Who gets on the power and stays on the power wins the race to the next corner. So that's
right.
the goal. But you
know what else he always said?
Aerodynamic command any speed.
That's what he also said.
He also said buy Rolex.
Yeah, a lot.
In that little article you read, it was funny.
Yeah.
Like his jackets are shorter on one side so it can show off his Rolex. Oh my god,
right,
crazy.
Yeah, Toro Rosso. The team says that they're moving. This is kind of interesting because this came out just this week, folks. Toro Rosso said that they're going to be working in a more cooperative fashion with Red Bull. Now, if you start reading the commentary of what they said, effectively, one could imagine that the comments are centered around the junior team, Toro Rosso, moving back to Renault engines for next year. They have last year's Ferraris right now. They're doing okay, but I would imagine they're pretty much saying that we're going to be moving back to Renault because with the Renault engine and the renewed Renault engine contract at Red Bull for 2017, that means that we can start to share power unit technical data and information back and forth the team, and we would have more of a symbiotic, cooperative relationship with our junior team. So they're looking to sort of homologate at least the engine supply across both teams and work in a closer fashion. And I've got to also think, Paul, in a lot of ways, Toro Rosso was rolling their own chassis. They're doing their own things, and kind of a knock on from when they originally came in. Some of the criticism was, well, they're just using Red Bull chassis from last year, or they're using the same chassis design that Newey did for Red Bull. And the FIA took great strides to make sure that it wasn't just a customer car, that it was a truly designed on its own. And so they went to some lengths to separate that. Now, I'm making a meal out of this, but the fact of the matter is that Haas F1 have pushed the limits of this customer car notion. And I think now Toro Rosso could look at Red Bull and say, you know what? We're just going to do what Haas is doing because they're so much closer to a Ferrari customer program than what maybe even Toro Rosso is to our own team, Red Bull. And so I think getting that Renault engine back for next year in this team, having that Renault at Red Bull, I think that's probably going to pay dividends for this team.
Yeah, no, for sure. That really opened the door for them to pull back a little bit to what they were, maybe halfway there or something. It's going to, and the Toro Rosso, quite honestly, they've done a great job on their own. But we know the Red Bull chassis is pretty much the best on the grid. So I don't think they're going to shy away from getting a little extra help from that side of the group.
Right.
Going back to the Renault engine now, who would have thunk that after
and
mudslinging that was going on not so long ago? But I guess they've all made up at this point. Renault have upped their engine units to Red Bull's liking. At least it's going in the direction Red Bull are okay with, and obviously as we know, Red Bull's options for another engine from Mercedes or Ferrari are very slim. So they don't unless they develop an engine themselves, or they're pretty much stuck with the Renault unit. And luckily for them, the Renault unit has made strides. And it's able to really show off that Red Bull chassis.
Yeah, and Renault, I've given them a lot of props. I think Renault having the guts to come out and provide Red Bull an engine, the same as their works team, that I think that says a lot about the team. I really appreciate that they're doing that. Mercedes wouldn't do it, Ferrari wouldn't do it, but Renault said, yeah. And the competition is going to press us even harder to improve our works team and really raise our game. And we welcome that competition. I think that's brilliant because that's in the spirit, in my thinking, that's in the spirit of Formula One. And this whole deal with Mercedes either flat out denying or reneging on providing a Mercedes engine with Red Bull and then Ferrari following suit, I just thought that was crap. And unfortunately, can you imagine what we'd be seeing with a Red Bull with the Mercedes engine in it?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Oh, Lewis taking an adventurous look at that corner there. Didn't want to hit the wall of champions. I don't blame him.
No, I don't know if he's ever done that. Most of them have, though.
Don't do bullshit.
Yeah. And he bailed out pretty late in the proceedings there, actually.
Yeah, he did.
I'm sure he got a lockup. Yeah, he just
right here it is.
Lockup. His entry speed was just a bit higher than he was ready to.
Yeah.
Carl picked up a little understeer there on the entry, and he said, okay, as soon as the understeer kicked in, I ain't going to make this one. So
he's not going to do it. Yeah. You can see that understeer right when it started. Yeah.
Yeah. As I said, you need the front end to bite, else you ain't going to make it, quite honestly. The next curve comes up in very quick manner. So you lose your line just a little bit on the entry, and boom, you're riding that next curve, which is gonna hurt.
Rosberg just went to the top of the 1:15.746, besting Kimi. Hamilton hadn't had a really good lap yet. He's down 16th.
It's probably a conspiracy.
Yeah.
They've given him a bad engine, bad tires.
He's just saving it for this weekend because he knows that the Biebs is going to be on the podium.
Oh, my gosh. They had a nice romantic week, I heard.
Yeah, and a brawl. Jet skis
and all that kind of stuff. A brawl? Oh, I didn't even hear that one.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, Biebs got roughed up at an NBA game.
Really?
What's up, dog? So here's Bottas on a hot lap. He is on a fresh set of the soft compound. Comes to the wall. Ooh, not good.
Yeah.
Thwarted there by a Red Bull. He won't be happy about that. Was that Ricardo? Or was that the plucky teen?
I don't know. There's trouble. It's got to be the plucky teen. They're nothing but trouble.
No, it was Ricardo. Wow. Yeah, Valtteri, the Finn won't be happy.
Him out.
Yep. So he just called to the team and said, come on, did you see that? And the team said, yeah, we're reporting it. Yeah, I knew he wouldn't be happy with that, especially from Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel's no spring chicken. He knows what he's doing around there. So Here's Hamilton on a lap, Paul. Here he is. Did he get the turn in?
Yep, he did it right.
Yep.
There you go.
Comes down to the line.
First one into the 14s.
Right to the top with a 1:14.980. Yeah. Lewis is focused.
So pole lap last year was a 14.3. So 14.3. This is P1. So you got to think that that record's going to go. Fastest qualifying laps here before was by none other than Schumacher, but not the one we'd think of. It's Ralf Schumacher with a 12.5.
Wow, Ralf Schumacher holds the record, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. A 12.5.
12.5. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to get to that realm.
Ralph, acknowledge. Wow. Yeah. Well, that's good.
But
now we've got, is this Alonso?
You never know, though, actually. I mean, they might be able to get it in the 12s if they're going this fast at the beginning.
I'm thinking.
Certainly low 13.
Yeah. Low 13, yeah. Here's Alonso on his hot lap.
We'll walk up.
We haven't talked a lot about McLaren Honda. The team did a bunch of dyno work, folks, and evaluation on a new engine upgrade. And what they're trying to decide ahead of this Grand Prix, and really kind of left it late in the decision process, but what they're trying to decide is the best plan for deploying the remaining engine upgrades that they have for the season. So in Canada, Alonso and Button will both have a brand new turbo unit that they're running here. So that's a good sign that they've started to deploy that. They said on the dyno, certainly the engine upgrades look great, but they certainly want to focus making it bulletproof and a reliability issue. So they're bringing new turbos here Both cars will be running that. Also, interestingly, Mobil 1 have come out with a new fuel iteration. Now, that's not uncommon. Shell, will have 5-6 iterations of race fuel during the season, but Mobil 1 is bringing a newer iteration of fuel to Canada as well, and they're hoping to gain a real boost from that too. So, that's hopefully going to all play into McLaren and hopefully be a lot better weekend for Ron.
Nice, Ron.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, as we know, our dealings with Shell, we know they're very aggressive with upgrades of fuel. More aggressive than the Mobil or Total or even Petronas, perhaps. But I think the gains that the Ferrari team made with that fuel, I think, are kind of raising the bar for these fuel companies to push harder.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. And I think Mobil 1 certainly and Total. If you guys recall my hot laps I did with Sebastian Vettel, I asked him about working with Shell because he had just came on board with Ferrari from Red Bull where they use Total. And I asked him the difference. And he said, to be fair, they all do a lot of work, Total among them, and they all work really hard. It's just that Shell brings it to a whole different level. They're just a whole different level of product development, and that's for lubricants and fuel. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. I think you're spot on, Paul. I think it's sent because so much performance can be gained out of fuel iterations and lubricants. I think that it's really raised the bar for companies like Total and specifically Mobil 1 this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we'll see.
We'll lock up. Whoop.
Yeah, I haven't seen any trap speed times or anything. See where McLaren are at right now.
Yeah,
be interesting.
Alonso's a 1:16.6, 1.6 seconds off the top spot. Yeah, I think you're right. The trap times would be interesting to see on the McLaren at this point.
Yeah, and the third best chassis on the grid, right? So.
Yes. Yeah, third best on the grid. That's right.
Yeah. Well, he's. I'm just trying to look at sector times wise. So, Alonso pretty good in the first sector so far, but 0.7 of a second slower than the Mercedes in the last sector, which is.
Ooh, it's third sector.
Yeah, which is obviously that long straightaway back there. So.
Yeah. Right. Alonso. Certainly people are continuing to ask him. They know he's frustrated. He's a heavily paid driver to the tune of around $38 million a year. And a lot of folks asking him, are you going to just hang it up? You're tired of this. And he says, look, at this point, I'm not going to discuss my future. We'll see how the 2017 regulation changes go. He says that, unfortunately, right now, he says it's just unfortunate that we have to save everything. It just goes against every instinct of a driver, including his. And he says, it's just not cool. But he wants to assess the 2017 regulations. His contract doesn't end until the end of next season anyway. So he's not going to be really talking about his future until midsummer next year, is what he said.
So Lewis thwarted just like Bottas was there coming into that last chicane. Everyone checking up to get their good run for their hot lap. A little earlier, we saw Rosberg there kicking up a lot of dust on the straightaway. And that was another thing I talked about on the track talk there, was that if you're ending your quick lap and you're not going for another lap, you'll see them just hold that right side of the road all the way to the finish line. But if you're on another lap, you'll see the cars move over to the middle of the road to get a better line for the braking for turn one. So you pretty much know what they're up to when they're just holding that line. Even though it doesn't seem like a lot of movement on the car, there's just a split second to be saved by keeping it straight rather than putting a little angle in the front tires. So that's why he was kicking up the dust.
Yeah. Here we got Sebastian on a hot lap. Let's see if we can see any seesawing in this car, Paul. Heavy braking.
And they've come with the upgrade too, right, Ferrari?
Yes, Ferrari have. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Ferrari are bringing a new turbo for Vettel in Canada. And they were having issues, Paul, with ultimately their straight line speed, but also importantly, they were having issues with harvesting. They weren't harvesting enough energy. So when they actually came through the corner and then got back on throttle, when they returned to throttle, they didn't harvest enough energy for that. And so that was a concern. So they have brought a new turbo. And, ultimately this team desperately needs this season to turn around, and it really needs to start at this weekend. They've brought a raft of upgrades. The team's looking to do much better, especially in qualifying, Paul. This is where, it seems like the longer the session goes, the slower they get in qualifying, and they're just quite honestly kind of stumped. And so hopefully they'll rectify that. Lewis doing a little farming here on the replay.
Got to give him more trouble. He's got to get a little lock up this time, but definitely the front end not turning in at the right point and even having to bolt the chicane there. So definitely testing the limits. It's tight at the top right now. So he can't lift and coast, that's for sure, this season.
Yeah, well, just 0.3 between he and Rosberg so far in this practice session. Here we got Max Verstappen, the plucky teen.
And he's on the soft, not the ultra. So
he is on the softs. Yeah, he's on the softs.
Obviously, they're all testing. Whoa, Vettel scaring the wall of champions there.
Yes, he was. He sets a 1:15.6, 9/10 off of Hamilton's top pace. And Raikkonen just ahead of him too. Which is how the championship lays as well.
Yeah, surprisingly enough.
Max has got a little issue here in the replay we're watching.
Once again, you're not seeing lockup. You're just seeing where the car just picking up understeer at the entry. So you got to get that front end to turn in at the beginning. It's nearly every corner here, quite honestly. How you get a car to be very front end and not that on the exit is the skill that these guys have to come up with. But as I said, the key there is to get the car straight. Then you're not really having to deal with the chassis intervening with getting off the corner because you've got the car turned earlier.
The shot of that back left tire going in and out, the flex of that tire and the load.
Crazy, right? Yeah.
It's just nuts, isn't it? And we've talked about it on this podcast, Paul, how much of a load bearer those sidewalls are and the design of that chassis. And boy, you get to see it there, didn't you?
Yeah, and we're going to see, obviously the tires are going to change next year, but they're still 13s, so we're not going to see as radical changes as we may have seen if they'd have gone to the 17-inch wheel and tire option.
And they were in the Haas garage. Back out on track. Looks like Verstappen, Raikkonen, and Vettel. And we're watching Jolyon Palmer here on a hot lap in the Renault.
Go Palmer.
Go Palmer.
Yeah.
Now, there's a great overhead view here, Paul, of the track.
Yep. So you want to grab all that curb there on that left side. None of that curb on the right. And then coming down that back straight, then you got to get on the brakes right about where the bridge goes over. And once again, big part of the first curb, little part of the second curb.
So you take a chunk out of the first and just a smidgen of the second.
Yep. Try and get it straight, and obviously you got that curve. That's where Kubica had that massive accident.
Yes. Ended up
every
right
time
down
I see
there.
that, I still can't believe.
I can't believe either. When I watched that, I thought, oh my gosh, I thought the worst. And, coming out and getting that power down out of that hairpin's got to be tough. Yeah. And because so many of them get wheel spin there, and
especially
it really,
bikini apparently.
Yes, yeah, right. And it really does set up this whole straight, Yeah. But this turn right here at the Wall of Champions, Paul, it's a It's a tricky one for sure, because then that's why everybody's hit that wall. But it's I guess it's so easy to get it wrong. But most of those guys, it's not the second part of that turn in the wall that gets them. It really starts at the entrance of that chicane.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and it's essential for a quick lap time to get out of there quickly. That's why so many things happen there, because it's not a corner that, you do it, take a little bit off, and you're really not going to lose lap time. You really are going to lose lap time, and you got to be super, super aggressive with it. I mean, you just got to attack it. You got to be coming out of there just buzzing to get a good lap time, and that's why so many even Formula One world champions have made big mistakes there, because risk is reward at that point. It really is, and you're living on the edge every time you come out of there. If you're not, then you're going slow, quite honestly.
On board with the Swede, Paul.
Yeah, finally got in the car. We saw him not so long ago, sitting in his jacket on the pit wall. So I don't know if they had issue with the car or what was going on, but he's at the bottom of the pile right now. NASA's obliterated him right now by over a second and a half. So
yes. NASA's got his number this weekend.
Yeah, he does.
I think the Swede's going to punch back here. He's on a hot lap. He is on a fresh set of soft compounds.
Oh man, watch the magic happen here.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Not many upgrades come in the Sauber team's way. So
no, there's not. And Manisha was in the press this week complaining of the prize money distribution and talking about the EU complaint with the anti-competition part of the complaint, and said, look, just the whole prize distribution, it's just not a fair competition anymore. When the small teams don't get anywhere near the money that the big teams do, we can't develop, we can't design, we can't compete. And it's been interesting, the response to that. Hasn't been a whole lot of sympathy from what I've seen. The response is when has F1 ever been fair?
Mm-hmm.
And when has F1 ever been cheap?
Yeah.
So,
hey, Derek was asking on Twitter for more soundboard. I don't know what you got. What you got? Got any new ones in there?
Oh well, I did this one.
We'll do it live.
I did do that. Yeah, I did do that one. And I would say that this is Nasser.
There he is. So Le Mans next week, right? So Le Mans Connection. Nasser drove for Mike Shank. He won a prize when he was coming up the ranks. And they do it every year. I'm not sure how they select the winner, but you get a ride at Daytona, and he drove for Mike Shank Racing, who are making their first attempt at Le Mans next weekend.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Unfortunately, had a big crash in the testing, but I think they fixed it, so that's good.
All right, here he comes.
Big racing weekend next weekend, right?
Yeah, it is. I love Le Mans for sure. Here he comes across the line, and
not good enough, damn it! Not good enough.
There you have it.
Damn it! My money.
You don't F with the Swede, Paul. That's all I'm going to say. One of these days, you're going to reckon.
Well, I can't give up now,
You're so heavily invested.
I'm so heavily invested. Right. That's why I have to keep Hamilton for the win every time. I'm trying to make up what for times I've lost from Rosberg's dominance here. Well, a little brush maybe. Just
did he touch it?
I think he may have just. If he didn't, it was pretty darn close.
I don't know. We've had a lot of discussions. I posted this and I said, well, there's how you do it. See, there's the secret to the Swede success. Full lockup on the left side coming into a right-hander. Always going to run wide. Yeah. That's how you do it, Paul. Your track talk was totally wrong on how to handle that corner.
And right there you can see, obviously, he's locking up the left.
Yeah,
coming into right-hand turn, which kind of shows you that the chassis is kind of leaned over still, coming out of that left-hand turn, because the lighter wheel will always lock up, right? So still keeled over there. Need to work on their getting that flat plane coming into the braking zone there, Marcus.
Yeah, that's I posted a thing about Kimi Räikkönen talking about his contract, and I'm wondering. I don't know, Paul. The response. I'll be honest with you. I posted a thing. Kimi Räikkönen, stay or go. What do you do? I mean, his contract's up. There's a lot of other drivers at play here. Suggestions. This guy, Daniel Ricciardo, could jump ship and go to Ferrari. Daniel says, "Look, I deserve a shot at the championship." He was completely just apoplectic in Monaco for all the right reasons, and he should be. He said it took him some time to cool down from Monaco. He was mad as hell, and he said the team assured him it wouldn't happen again. But he says, look, I feel like I deserve a shot at a top team and a shot at going for the championship. And a lot of people said, well, Kimi's contract is up. Do you keep Kimi? Do you not keep Kimi? I think that's the big question. I thought when I posted this, certainly the responses that we saw on the website and on our Facebook page, I really thought that there would be absolutely keep Kimi, but there weren't, Paul. I think a lot of people said, you know what, his heart's not in it, and it's time for him to go. That's interesting because Kimi is such a fan favorite. I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, he is, but if time does tick on, so maybe he needs to come up with another saying during a race to reliven his people's enthusiasm for him. Needs the Ferrari team to start swearing at him to get out of the way or something. I don't know. But
there's your speed traps, Paul. Alonso and Button down in 20th and 22nd.
Yeah. So the key is like, who would Ferrari put in there that's better than Kimi, right? So and there's going to be a lot of shuffling, but Rosberg is a key point right here. If he really actually does leave Mercedes, he is the best driver available. Mm-hmm. So can they get him? Do they want him? Obviously, we know history tells us Ferrari don't put young drivers in there very often.
That's right.
At all, except for when they put Gilles Villeneuve in there. But it's he would be the logical choice for them, really.
It seems like he would be to me as well, and Gerhard Berger helping him with his contract negotiations. Mercedes, Niki Lauda said, no, look, we'll get Nico re-signed in the next 3 weeks or so, and that was, a week and a half ago. So, it's hard to know. If I'm Ferrari, you're absolutely right. Ferrari doesn't have a history of saying, hey, let's go out and put a youngster in like a Max Verstappen. They're not interested in that. They're interested in getting two seasoned veterans in there to give them the best chance on either car to win races. I think Rosberg is one. I think Daniel Ricciardo is another. There's a few names out there. There's certainly a few names about this guy, Sergio Perez, possibly moving over to Ferrari.
And he was part of the Ferrari Academy not so long ago.
That's right. And I don't know that I could put up a strong argument against that, Paul. I think Sergio Perez has been doing a hell of a job.
Yeah, no, he really has. And everyone's been noticing, and everyone rates, obviously, Nico Hülkenberg, but Perez has been a lot more successful, quite honestly. I'm not going to, say Hülkenberg isn't capable either. He is, but sometimes no matter how fast or great you are, some guys just have a knack of getting the results versus some other people, and Perez has been doing that over Hülkenberg. So why wouldn't you? You could probably sell a bunch of Ferraris in Mexico too.
Well, you probably could.
Yeah.
Of course, I bet Carlos Slim already owns a few.
Yeah, I think he does. He'll buy one for everybody.
A Ferrari for everyone.
Yeah, and for Perez, obviously, he spent that 1 year at McLaren at a top team. Probably didn't get a full shake, and would jump at the chance, quite honestly. Yeah. But it's tough because the Mercedes, obviously, you see these manufacturers there. They've got Pascal Wehrlein in the shadows there right now. When do they pull the trigger, and when do they want to pull the trigger? They could sure save a hell of a lot of money if they bring him in.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
We'll see.
Is this Hamilton? Yep. Lewis back out on track.
He didn't blow it this time.
Nope, he nailed it that time.
But he's starting his lap.
Yeah, starting a hot lap here.
Super softs, I guess, right? Super softs.
Yeah, it's a scrub set of super soft.
Okay.
Well, let's see how he does on this.
So they're just trying to eke out, see what performance they're getting out of all these tires, so they can maybe make their weekend allocation. Obviously, they've got their allocation of tires, but when and where they're going to use them is a strategy game too. So they're really trying to figure that out. And so every lap is important, right? Every lap is expensive. Every lap is important. Yeah,
absolutely. And they're harvesting information every single lap, and it is all calculated. And there is a program.
Yeah,
there's absolutely a program. They're not just out farting around to see how fast they can go. Everything is testing scrub, testing new tires, everything is all calculated toward race strategy, and that's what we're seeing right now. Here it goes down the straight and into the final chicane. As Paul's feed's about a second and a half faster than mine, so
I am faster than you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. He's 3 seconds off.
Yeah, and we're a bit behind the actual live deal. I think we're about.
We are, yeah.
Yeah, watching live timing, it doesn't.
Paul, I'll be honest with you. I've been trying to watch the new Top Gear with Chris Evans and stuff.
Yeah.
Not making sense to me. It's not. But they had JB on last week.
I didn't see that. No, I just.
Can I say? Would it be inappropriate to me say that JB was better than any of the hosts they already had?
Well, it wouldn't be tough, right?
They just put JB in there, man.
Yeah,
he was terrific.
Actually, I didn't think I saw the first one. I didn't think Matt LeBlanc was as bad as I thought he was going to be, honestly. But
yeah, no, I agree with you.
I also think that they're not really doing anything new either.
No,
quite honestly, and I think Top Gear needed a shake-up, but it seems like they're just trying to follow exactly the same format.
Yeah,
to the most degree, but with just different talking heads. But I would have thought they'd want to shake it up just. I
would have thought the Australian and U.S. Top Gear would have shown them that trying to do the same format just doesn't work, because when you try to do the same format, people expect the hamster and James and Jamie.
Yeah.
But the plucky teen taking the shortcut.
He's a cheater.
He is a cheater. Look at him go.
Yeah, hopefully he can rebound from his Monaco escapades.
Yeah. But this young guy is truly something special.
He definitely is.
Yeah, he really is. And he's young enough to not have. He's got like zero fear, Paul. He's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Just give it more welly.
Yeah, he probably has to curb that just a wee bit, right?
Yeah,
yeah. You have to have a little fear.
Mm-hmm.
Else you just end up hitting things a lot.
Right. Well, and that's what Pastor Maldonado, that's what he said was a key to his success. That he had big balls.
Strange. I wonder what's causing all the accidents.
Right.
Yeah. His success. I'd like to see what that was. But he did win a race, I guess. So there's a successful.
Yeah, in Spain. Ooh, was that Nico? Yes. Nico getting rather close to the wall of champions. He's on a scrub set of Ultrasoft 4 seconds down, not an indicative lap of what you would think on Ultrasofts they'd get, but it was a scrub set.
It may be a mistake, or he's just getting the temperatures right in the tires. So
well, and we saw in Monaco, Paul, that first lap or so out on these Ultrasofts was not their optimum lap. I found that interesting in Monaco to watch the guys go out earlier than normal, because they knew it took like the third lap before the Ultrasofts had their optimum temperature performance window. Right. So they would go out and run 2 laps to then set the hot lap. And I thought, nobody really talked about that much, but I found that kind of interesting, because if you were wanting people and teams to run more laps and more frequently, well, you'll make the tires where it takes a good 3 laps to get some heat into them. But you can do that for safety reasons.
Yeah, but that's just cars buzzing around, I mean, you want to watch them do something. Should we even pay attention to this lap or not?
Right. Is this the lap I should be watching?
Yeah. It's interesting though that obviously the Ultrasoft went a lot further than they thought it would.
Yeah.
Which always, it seems obvious to me every time, because once the tracks rub it in, it's going to happen. But
right.
we'll see. And this could be what Nico's doing right now, is just see how long they can, because obviously going to be qualifying in the ultra soft, how long they can make those tires last before. So he could be on full fuel, trying to get a read on it.
Carlos Sainz, he's giving it some welly here. He had a good Monaco result.
Yeah.
And
who was it that crashed here a couple of years ago, weaving around? It wasn't Sainz, was it? No.
Oh, I do remember, but I don't remember who that was.
They crashed warming up their tires
warming up tires. That's right. Yeah.
I thought it was a Toro Rosso for some reason, but it probably wasn't one of these guys.
Sainz says it's just a matter of time until he gets a shot at a top team. He says, I just think it's a matter of time. He had a great result in Monaco. And I go back to your thing, and you made a comment, and I don't think it was the last podcast we did. It may have been previous to that, but you said, ultimately the moving of Daniel Kvyat may have played well for just about everybody. Certainly it did for Max Verstappen. And I think your point was that it's really actually been the right move for Carlos Sainz, because Helmut Marko said there was a lot of friction between Sainz and Verstappen at that point, and moving Kvyat back was all part of the plan to sort of relieve that tension and to get a little more harmony amongst the teams. And I would say that it's probably done that. Carlos is now looking to be on it. And the only person that's really out is Daniel Kvyat.
The only guy. And if for some reason Ricciardo moved off to Ferrari, could you imagine Sainz and Verstappen back again in the Red Bull team?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that would work either. I don't know. Obviously, if they got friction, they talk about it when they're fighting for race wins rather than fifth place. I don't know.
Right.
It's an interesting dilemma that the Red Bull ladder system is getting themselves into.
Yeah. Sainz doesn't improve his position. He's still in 8th.
Oh, there's some issues there in the McLaren team.
Yikes.
You want to get out of there, Jensen? Yeah, you're making a little smoke. What was that?
That's
what was it that they let him go? I don't know.
Yeah, no kidding. And he's going slow here.
He's going very slow, yeah. Maybe they needed to get out of the garage just in case something bad was going to happen.
Jensen, get out of the garage in case you blow up.
Yeah. I told you that story about when I was racing a Porsche at 24-hour race in practice and fired it up and the whole car caught fire. And the crew started pushing the car away from all the other cars rather than trying to get me out of the car. So I was a little upset at that. So you don't want that to happen. Smoke is bad.
Smoke's very bad. I don't know if he's going to be able to box.
He's trundling.
On the radio, yeah. Whoops. How about that? Huh?
Little bagpipes.
Little bagpipes there. I was thinking that's the end of the death of that engine. That's it. No, he's gonna box. The radio said
another
that
grid penalty for the McLaren team.
Yeah, the team radio said that Honda was aware of what the problem was, but boy, those mechanics
that it blew up. Yes.
Yeah, those mechanics, they're gonna have to put a canary in that garage. I think they got the black lung. The best seat in the house at this point is to be Eric Bouyer.
Yeah.
Out there at pit wall. He doesn't have to inhale the toxic fumes. Yeah, I'm not sure what that was.
Yeah, it was I'm pretty sure they shoved him out of there just to stop killing people. No mosquitoes left in the paddock area now.
Yeah, that's the McLaren's new DDT program.
Yeah.
Well, they got it cleared out quickly, though. Look, there's not a hint of smoke. That's impressive.
Someone just overfilled the oil. Yeah. That's what you get when you get your oil changed at Quickie Mart.
Wow.
It's like we're stuck in a temperature limiter. What does that mean? That's evidently what he said.
Was that what he said?
Yeah. It's like we're stuck in a temperature limiter. That's so if, it could be like, there's a rev limit if the car isn't up to a certain temperature.
Yeah, yeah.
Even like your street car, you pull out and your Audi R8 and you're not allowed to shift past 6500 until it's all warmed up.
Right.
You know that when you pull your R8 out of the garage.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Yeah. Don't use the launch mode when the engine's cold. Yeah, right. That's not good. Here we got Kimi Räikkönen. Vettel finally gets up to third there. Faster than Räikkönen. Let's see what Räikkönen does here. Nope.
So the dying minutes here. So they're putting
the waning minutes.
Or if in England, it's probably all over already. But we'll see how the Valtteri can't blame that on Ricciardo this time.
No. It doesn't look like he's got a great big flat spot there.
No, not too bad. But at this point of the proceedings, that left front tire was showing a bit of wear too. So
yeah, right.
The end of his tire run, perhaps. I'm not sure. So the Mercedes up top, as you would expect at this track.
As you would expect.
And the Ferrari's doing fairly close, but Verstappen, the plucky teens, got himself in there somehow.
He sure does. Interesting. And Verstappen in fourth, splitting the Ferraris, and then Bottas. Williams, they said, interesting, they had a comment in the press today that said, or this week that said, look, we're not going to compromise our chassis design and everything for Monaco or Singapore. And we've talked about that a lot in podcasts, Paul, where the team, they design their cars for the rule, not the exception. And so you'll see that these teams are really suited for these high-speed, medium-speed circuits. And certainly Williams has done that. They didn't spend a lot of time making sure their car would go well in Monaco or Singapore. And we've talked about that past. Certainly Force India had been traditionally known in the hands of Sergio Perez to be very good at those high-speed circuits. When we think of Spa in years past, when Force India would really kind of come to the fore. And interesting, though, for Force India, now they seem to be a lot better at the medium speed and even some of the slower circuits.
Yeah,
they've done pretty well.
Yeah. And ultimately, if you're going to start winning championships and winning races, you've got to have a car that can work everywhere.
Yeah.
And so but if it's going to work at the high-speed circuits, it better work really well. And obviously, we're seeing here Bottas in sixth place, the second half off the Mercedes team is not where they need to be if that's their whole aim for the car.
Right.
They should be fighting it out at the front at this point, because make hay while the sun shines when their car should be most suited to the track. Right.
Yeah, and Williams and Mercedes, like you said, Mercedes seems to be good everywhere. Although, they did have some pressure in Monaco. There's no doubt about it. Is that their best track? I would say if there was a weaker side of that, it may be those short circuits that Mercedes isn't that great at. But they're still really good there. That's the point.
Yeah, I mean, when you got probably the best engine on the grid, you have some latitude to play around a little bit with downforce levels, etc. So you can still perform well at at those kind of circuits too.
An interesting manner, down in 17th. For Manor, they said, look, we're not giving up on our 2016 car. I mean, the fact is, we have some focus. We're working on the 2017 chassis, but we're not going to give up developing on this 2016 chassis, because fact of the matter is that we're learning a lot as we try to develop this 2016 chassis that we're going to apply to next year's car. So nice to see them still at least trying to develop this year's car.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's they made great strides, but they were so far behind. The great strides still don't get them fighting it out too much. But you've seen Berline mix it up, and that's great if they can build those resources. But to build those resources and still have a good car for next year, they're probably got to keep adding people still.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, right. Even Dave Ryan, he said he's not 100% back in the saddle. He's been away from Formula One a while, and said it's taken him a little bit to kind of get reacclimated with the process and the series and how things go. But hopefully they'll, like you said, they'll have the resource continue to grow, start adding some people, and go from there. It's what you would hope from Sauber, but it's not happening. So,
all right.
Interesting enough. Well, that is the session, folks. Thanks so much for joining us and listening along to Paul and I talk about the free practice 1.
So we're going to do free practice 3 too, because I can if it's
okay. Well, I would love to do free practice 2 if you can do that. So look for the website and the tweets and links, and we'll send you the link to our free practice 3 session, which it'll start the same time tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. So. Plan on joining us back then. So until then, we will see you tomorrow for free practice 3. Thanks for listening, folks.
See you, everybody.